Hello and welcome to this presentation about data collection using artificial intelligence. I would start off by saying that I think that data collection is probably a slight misnomer. A lot of the time I think it's data generation. That's certainly one use case, but I am going to have a go at data collection as well in our field trip later in the presentation. So our learning intention is that students can identify the strengths and weaknesses in using generative AI to collect data. First of all, what can generative AI do? Well, it can synthesize data sets that mimic real-world data patterns. So I'm hoping that when we ask it later about unemployment in Australia and population, that the figures are realistic. Maybe not exactly accurate, but that they represent the general trends. They can create test data for software development and quality assurance, and that's what one of my field trips is going to be about. They can produce survey responses or interview transcripts for research prototyping. Now, this is really useful in terms of saying, okay, what might this look like? But remember that a transcript isn't a real transcript from somebody, it's just got the characteristics of it. So you're not actually learning anything from a particular person, it's just having its best guess. So yes, you can do that, but I wouldn't be relying on that data, and it can generate code examples and documentation, and I'm going to be having a look at that too. So what are the strengths? Well, it's very quick and it's a very efficient use of your time. You get it quickly and you get what it is that you're asking for. It's cheap. Some of these services are free. Some of them cost $20, $100. Conducting real research is expensive and time consuming. It's accessible to all sorts of people. Students, teachers, researchers, government, private individuals. You can customize it extremely specifically. You can ask it, as you'll see, for a very narrow slice of information, and it'll bring you back something, for the most part, that meets those parameters. It's better than using real production data. You're not actually giving away people's personal details when you're representing this data, because it's not real people, or at least it shouldn't be. And you can test scenarios, so you can actually run the idea of something very narrow that hasn't been done before. Now, if you're in class, we'd be talking about what could go wrong, but let's talk about that now. So, there are accuracy concerns. AIs hallucinate. They kind of want to please you, and so they will make stuff up. If it doesn't have data, it will make up data. And it won't say, oh, here's some, probabilistic data. It'll just go, here's what's true. It reproduces bias. So if you've got, let's say, for instance, that you have concerns about the validity of vaccines. If you look up the research, then it's going to come back with mountains and mountains of medical research, all of which has a bias of a particular way of thinking. And if that way of thinking isn't what you're interested in, then you're going to view that information as unhelpful. It contains the values of what it's consumed and been trained on. There's a lack of authenticity. It isn't real data, as we might find in one of the examples. When it says limited novelty, it doesn't mean that it's not amusing. It means that there's only so much it can do in a situation that's genuinely new, because it is trained on existing data sets. And while you can get some stuff that looks like generating new information, it is just a guess, and a guess sometimes presented with great confidence. It can be difficult to validate it. Is this accurate or not? And there are certainly ethical considerations about using it, about how the data was trained, about what what conclusions you might draw from it. And sometimes it will give you international samples and not necessarily, it's trained on all sorts of data without much respect for national boundaries, and so it might bring you back stuff that isn't appropriate. And apparently there's some regulatory or legal uncertainty about using it for research, so that's something that's going to unfold in the years to come. So, some sensible uses of it. Creating prototype data sets during early development stages, which is what I'm going to do in the first example. We're going to generate test data that doesn't require real-world accuracy. I'm going to do that in one of the others. Supplementing but not replacing traditional data collection methods. I think that's a bit iffy, but sure, you could use it early to sort of set up your processes, and then you're going to feed data in later. But I don't know that I'd want any AI generated data in the data that I'm making decisions from. And working with scenarios where privacy concerns would prohibit use of real data. so where you can't do it. So let's go and have a look at, I'm just going to use the Google AI. So please generate, I've said please generative, please generate an associate, geez, spelling mistakes all over the place here, array in Python for test scores, there we go. Students, yeah, okay, alright. Yeah, that looks to me like a program that would do that. I was actually hoping it would give me an actual array, but it instead has built me a program that will generate an array. You know what? Why don't we test it? So there it is. Let's fire up Thonny. I was actually expecting to see an array, but but I didn't. So let's roll with the punches. All right. So there's my code. I run it. Oh, there we go. Yep, and that seems to me very much what I asked for. Okay, so not 100% of what I wanted, but certainly good enough. Please generate a two-dimensional array with the population unemployment rate for all Australian states and territories. Now, hopefully this is an actual array. There you go. Tells us where it's getting it from. Now that's not an array. It didn't bring back what I asked for. It brought me back a table rather than an array. And let's having a look at that population. Yeah, those population figures seem about right to me. And my understanding of the unemployment rate is that that's broadly speaking accurate. But again, I wouldn't want to be making, national policy decisions based on it. But if you were just looking for a general, you're testing a solution where you wanted to graph this, then this would be okay data to start with. So, I hope that's been useful to you. It's a kind of novel and potentially controversial field, and I hope that this has helped you understand it a little bit better.